So we're heading down to St. Charles right now. It's about 15 minutes away, and then we got a service call today. Customer said that system wasn't working and they had a maintenance guy out and they told them that they need to replace the whole system. So we're gonna go out there and see if we can maybe avoid replacing the whole system, see if we can get them up and running today, and then go from there. So customer told us that he replaced the capacitor yesterday, and then he also added a hard start to the system. Said it still wasn't turning on the way it should be. And if you listen closely, you can actually hear that compressor trying to kick on. So right now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna shut the outdoor unit off until we can get out here to figure out what's going on with it. But the reason why we shut it off is just to avoid any more damage than what's already been done. But yeah, he said that they went ahead and replaced the capacitor, also added a hard start kit, and then filled it up with some refrigerant, and the system is still not working. So we're gonna hopefully go through it and be able to get the customer up and running today. Basically, we're gonna go through the full system and we're gonna give you a full rundown on it. So just because the AC is not working doesn't really mean that that's all that we're gonna be looking at today. Really, we're gonna go through this furnace, we're gonna check everything, make sure that the airflow is proper, make sure that the filter's clean, make sure that this drain line here isn't clogged up. We're basically just looking for anything that could be a future issue, and that way we can avoid future callbacks. So we'll go through it and then we'll figure out what's going on outside after that. Customer said that he added this hard start right here and then also replaced the capacitor in there. So first thing that we're gonna do is just verify that that capacitor is good and within the range that we want it to be. And we'll do that using microfarads here on our multimeter. So you'll see here, whenever we check this, I'm just checking over here, common to Herm, I'm looking for about 35. There you can see it's at 35.3. So I would tell them, hey, that's a good capacitor right there and it is in range. Then we'll also check the fan side of that capacitor as well. So for your system out here, you have two separate motors, one being the fan motor and then one being the compressor down there. Essentially the compressor is a bigger motor. It's gonna need more capacitance to start. I always compare a capacitor to a starter on a car, just essentially helping kick those motors over. So whenever you have a bigger motor, you're gonna need more to basically get it going. And then on the fan side, we're looking for 5 microfarads, and you can see right there, it's reading perfect. So we can tell that that is a good capacitor and it should be starting the compressor. You'll see it's reading 135. Yep, so right now we're just checking this hard start right here as well. So we'll just do the same thing that we did for the dual capacitor, but for this we're gonna be looking for a bit of a different reading. So we gotta find the rating on the capacitor and then we will check and see if it is within range. Now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna ohm out the compressor. So earlier whenever we came out, we could hear that the compressor was trying to kick on, but it wasn't turning over. And the fact that our capacitor is good, our hard start looks to be good as well. Really, we just gotta check that compressor to see if there's something going on inside of it that is maybe causing it to not start. So we'll check that before we try to run the unit again, and then after that we'll run the unit and we'll see what exactly is going on with it. If it's pulling locked rotor amps, that just means that the rotor inside of there is not turning on, not spinning. So we'll see if we can get them going today. And whenever we turn the unit on, we're gonna be watching this clamp here. So if we look on our door, we're gonna see on here for our compressor, there's gonna be a LRA. Essentially what your LRA is gonna be locked rotor amperage. So anything that is basically close to or around 58 amps, that would be pulling locked rotor amps. So that would just mean that the rotor inside of the compressor is locked up and we have to basically get it to free itself up before that unit can keep spinning. So once we fire the unit up, we will check the amperage and then we'll also check to make sure we're getting the proper voltage into the unit. So right now you'll see we're getting 0.7 amps, and that is just because our fan motor is running right now. So our fan motor is pulling 0.7 amps, but we can tell that the compressor is not running. Really, anytime your compressor is running, you're gonna have a couple amps at least, 3, 4, 5. Basically what we're looking for is for this to jump up to about 55, 58. And if it does do that, like I said, at that point we would know that the compressor inside of there is locked up. But with there already being a hard start on this unit, there's not much else that we can do to get it to turn over. Sometimes you can randomly get them to turn over, you can try to cool it down, things like that. But typically whenever they are locked up, if a hard start's not freeing it up, there is a good chance that the compressor is having some internal issues. So basically the compressor was locked up outside, and at that point we basically told the customer he can either try to put an additional hard start on it, or we can basically tell him, hey, it's time to replace your AC and coil. And with the furnace being at the age 2 where we're gonna start to notice that things are starting to fail as well, what we basically asked the customer is, hey, would you like us to perform a safety check on the furnace and make sure that there's not anything going on inside of that heat exchanger? Because really what we don't want to do is replace the AC and coil, and then we come back a year later and tell him he's going to need a new furnace. So if we can, what we do is just basically try to provide all that information at once. That way we're not kind of putting them in a bad spot where they're replacing parts 2 years in a row. So we're just wrapping up that service call now. Basically what was going on is that compressor was locked up, and since the customer had already put a hard start on it, basically all we did is just check to see that all of his wiring was correct. When all the wiring was correct, and essentially at that point, basically what we told him is, hey, that compressor's done, for instance, and at that point he's going to have to start looking into some replacement options. So what we did is we basically scheduled the customer for a free estimate tomorrow, and what will happen is our comfort advisor will come out there and he's going to go through some options with the customer, pick what system is right for him, and then figure out kind of where to go from there. So really for those ones, since they don't have any cooling right now, we're going to try to get something going as fast as possible. The last thing we want is for our customers to be without heat or without cooling for the week and get super hot in the house. So sometimes what we can do is get them some temporary cooling for the time being. And since the AC and coil are both going to need to be replaced, at that point we did inform the customer that we could do a safety inspection on the furnace just to basically mitigate issues down the road. So anytime you're replacing big pieces of equipment, we want to basically find as many things going on with it. That way we're not charging the customer to do a repair and then also telling him a year later, hey, you're going to need a new furnace. Typically whenever you're replacing parts, you want to try to do them all at the same time if need be. And we did actually find that the heat exchanger on the furnace does have a crack in it. So at that point we did tell the customer he will be better off replacing his furnace along with his air conditioner and coil. And he was happy to hear that. That way all of his warranties are going to line up and he's going to have a nice new system installed.